did not mean he didn't love him. To lose a loved one would have crushed him. It still resides within him as a nightmare today. Garrett leans on a support system that is his family. They pick him up when he is down, and they keep him going when he stops. Something Garrett always wondered in the back of his head was, what if something bad was to happen to him? Would his teammates help him through the troubled times? Garrett always knew that, aside from his actual family, he had a team that had a close bond. He knew that if any of his teams would help him through a difficult time. Even as Garrett envied his older brothers Doug's and Kevin's sports influenced him greatly. In the 3rd grade, Garrett took over the responsibility of being the timekeeper for his older brother's lacrosse team. The Shore Country Day School lacrosse team possessed a lot of talent that year, and especially one player stood as a model for what Garrett wanted to be. The star of the team, Devin McBride, set the school scoring record that year, a record that Garrett would later break. He played outstanding every game. He scored amazing goals, and Garrett watched with wide eyes from the sidelines. He wanted to be just like Devin. Not only did Devin play great, he also possessed character. He played with class, shook the hands of opponents, spoke with parents, and modeled a classy person. Garrett saw this and realized that talents can only carry a player so far. You must also be a good person. Without character, you are nothing. If you cannot shake the hand of an opponent after a game, or if you cannot get over a loss, then you truly cannot call yourself an enlightened person. Garrett began to realize at this point that he must become more than just an athlete. So while his brothers did not influence him, the sport of lacrosse and one of their teammates did. As Garrett reached high school, his lacrosse career had gone through many twists and turns, but the sport itself had developed him well. It taught him never to take anything for granted. It showed Garrett that even at a young age, he must value the small things in life. Garrett's greatest performance in his own mind came his sophomore year in high school. It was the quarterfinals of the state playoffs in lacrosse, and the game had gone into overtime. At the time, the St. John's lacrosse team had never gone past the quarterfinals, and this was clear to Garrett. The first possession of overtime went to St. John's, and a timeout was called. His coach, Mr. Roy, made up a play, and instantly it was broken up and left to improvisation. Garrett's teammate Mark Scalise caught the ball on the right side of the net and passed it back towards the side of the goal. And Garrett caught it, turned, and fired the ball to the top right corner of the net. He instantly ran into the arms of his teammates. His team jumped on top of him. They pig-piled him, everyone screaming and filled with joy. Once everyone had gotten up, and the last person to hug him was Coach Roy. Garrett at this point realized his calling was the sport of lacrosse. He was at home on the field, and the team was his family. The emotion of the win stuck with Garrett for the rest of the year. It will also stick with him for the rest of his life. The next year, his lacrosse team played all the way to the state championship. He and his teammates played their hearts out at Harvard Stadium for the entire game and came up 1 goal short. The loss devastated Garrett. In the midst of his sadness came a few lessons for him. Garrett realized that when you lose something in life, you begin to see the importance of smaller, less noticeable things. Garrett still had not seen his ultimate fear. He had not lost a loved one. He bonded and grew with his teammates the entire season. He had a second family. Garrett saw the season in its entirety and not just defined by one game. Garrett soon found out that he would be playing a lot more games at Harvard Stadium, because that would be the college he was going to attend. So the little boy standing on the front steps of his house was truly destined to play college sports. All of his accomplishments had made his parents proud. He no longer felt inferiority to his brothers. Garrett had defined himself as an individual. He did a number of interviews after the game and tried only to speak positively of his team. He showed character by congratulating the winning team. He also never made excuses for losing the game. This infuriated Garrett when he heard others do it, and he swore he would never make an excuse for losing in a competition. Garrett matured because of lacrosse and the experiences the sport brought him. Garrett enjoyed a blessed life throughout his early years. He lived with a family that loved him, played on teams that were like family, and he worked hard to be satisfied with his own self-image. Garrett understood from the game of lacrosse that sports are not everything in life. He saw that one must take a step back and look at life through a scope. Garrett understood that people around him pushed him for a reason. His parents wanted only the best for their son, and that's why they demanded things out of him. His brothers loved him, even though they seemed like bearing for success that Garrett needed to overcome. Success does not matter in a family. Winning and losing teach people things about themselves that they can never learn anywhere else. Success for Garrett Campbell lies within his ability to see the true essence of his actions. If Garrett can look at himself in the mirror and be satisfied with himself, then that is all that really matters. Garrett's character, intellect, and personality developed from sports, but those things come as a secondary. Sports really taught Garrett the small lessons that need to be learned in order to lead a happy life.